My name is Sophie. I'm 25 years old now, and this is the story of how one lie my sister told when I was 19 made my dad disown me and completely destroy my life. I grew up in what looked like a pretty normal American family from the outside. Mom, dad, two daughters, small house, big holiday dinners, the usual. But inside the house, things were not balanced at all. My older sister, Lily, is 3 years older than me. She was always the favorite. My parents would never admit that, but it was obvious. Teachers loved her. Relatives praised her. My parents constantly bragged about her. She was loud, funny, and knew how to perform in front of adults. I was the quiet one. I did well in school. I followed the rules. I didn't cause trouble. And somehow, that made me invisible. Whenever Lily and I got into fights, the outcome was basically decided before it even started. If she said one version of a story, and I said another, everyone just assumed she was telling the truth. If she broke something, there was always a reason. Or, it was an accident. If I did anything wrong, it turned into a lecture about respect, responsibility, and how we expected better from you. By the time I was a teenager, I had learned a very clear lesson. If something goes wrong, and Lily is involved, it will probably end up being my fault. When I was 19, I was in my second year of college at a local school. I lived at home to save money, commuted to campus, and worked part-time at a coffee shop. I paid for my own gas, my phone bill, and a lot of my own expenses. My parents let me live in the house, but I wasn't just sitting around. Lily, at that point, was 22. She had already dropped out of college once, bounced from job to job, and constantly needed help. My parents gave her money for car repairs, helped her with rent, paid off some of her credit card debt. Always with the same excuse. She's going through a lot right now. Anytime I pointed out that this seemed unfair, I got, "You're the responsible one, Sophie. We don't have to worry about you." Which sounds nice, but in reality it meant, "We will pour all our attention and resources into your sister, and expect you to figure everything out alone." Around the middle of my sophomore year, strange things started happening with my bank account. One day, my debit card got declined at a gas station, even though I was sure I had enough money. I checked my account and saw several charges I didn't recognize: clothing stores, food delivery, ride shares, a hair salon, places I hadn't been. I went to my bank, reported it as fraud, filled out the paperwork, and got a new card issued. It was stressful, but I assumed some random person had somehow gotten my info. I mentioned it at dinner, and my dad just said, "You need to be more careful," and moved on. Lily stayed strangely quiet. I didn't think much of it after that, until a couple of weeks later. One afternoon, I came home from class and found my dad sitting at the kitchen table with a stack of papers in front of him. His expression wasn't just angry, it was hard, like he had already made up his mind about something. He said, "Sit down." My stomach dropped. "What's going on?" He slid a credit card statement across the table. It was for one of their emergency-only cards that I barely even knew existed. The page was full of charges: restaurants, clothing stores, Amazon orders, ride shares, salon visits. A lot of the same places I'd seen on my own bank statement before. At the top of the page was the total, just over $4,300. He asked, "Do you recognize any of these?" I looked at the list and shook my head. "No, I've never used your card. I don't even know the number." His jaw tightened. "It's funny you say that, because when the card company called me about suspicious activity, I called home to ask if either of you had used it. Lily told me you had borrowed the card for textbooks and gas. She said you must have gotten carried away." My brain went blank for a second. I said, "What? I never touched your card. Why would she say that?" He slammed his hand on the table. "Do not drag your sister into this. She was trying to explain what happened. She was in tears when she told us. She said you were embarrassed and scared to tell us you'd messed up." I felt my chest tighten. I reported my card as hacked. I went to the bank. I filed forms. Why would I go through all that if I was the one spending the money? He held up another paper. "Your bank also called. Fraud on your account, same stores, same dates." What are we supposed to think, Sophie? That some hacker just decided to target both of you and us at the exact same time? I could see it in his face. He had already decided I was guilty. I tried one more time. "I didn't do this. I don't know how to prove it to you, but I didn't. Have you even asked Lily if she used your card?" He snapped. "She admitted she knew about some of the charges on your account because you begged her not to tell us, but she swore she never touched ours. She has never given us a reason to doubt her." That line hit me like a punch. She has never given us a reason to doubt her. I wanted to list every bad choice she'd made that they had magically forgiven. Instead, I said, "So you believe her, again, and nothing I say matters." He stared at me for a moment, then said, very coldly, "You stole from this family. You broke our trust. And now you're standing here lying to my face about it. As far as I'm concerned, if you're old enough to commit fraud, you're old enough to live on your own." I blinked. "What are you saying?" "I want you out of this house by the end of the week," he said. "Pack your things. Don't ask us for help. You made your bed, now lie in it." In less than 10 minutes, based on a single conversation with my sister and some credit card charges, my dad decided I was a thief and should be kicked out. I was 19. I had a part-time job, a small savings account, and nowhere else to go. And in that moment, I realized I was about to lose everything, because my family believed Lily's lies over my entire history of being the responsible one. At first, I honestly thought he was bluffing. This was my dad, the same man who used to help me with math homework and drive me to school when it rained. I told myself, if I just show him the bank paperwork, if I stay calm, he'll realize he's making a mistake. I went to my room, grabbed the folder where I kept my important documents, and brought my fraud report back to the kitchen. My hands were shaking as I put the forms on the table. "Look," I said, "here's the report from my bank. Here's the date I filed it. Here's the case number. You can call them and ask. I'm not making this up. I didn't use your card and I didn't make those charges on mine." He barely glanced at the papers. "You could have filed that after the fact," he said, "to cover your tracks. I'm not stupid, Sophie." My voice cracked. "Why is it so easy for you to think I would do this?" He sighed like he was exhausted. "Because the charges are real. The money is gone. And your sister, who has never lied to us this way, told us what happened. You, on the other hand, are acting like a guilty person trying to talk her way out of consequences." It was surreal. I had spent my whole life trying to be the good kid, and now my own father looked at me like I was some stranger who'd robbed him. I said quietly, "You've already made up your mind." He replied, "I have. Start packing." I went back to my room and just sat on the floor for a while, staring at the walls. Everything felt unreal. Over the next few days, reality hit hard. My mom avoided me as much as possible. When we crossed paths in the hallway, she'd turn her face away. Once, I grabbed her arm and whispered, "Mom, please. You know I wouldn't do this." She just shook her head, tears in her eyes. "I don't know anything anymore," she said, and walked away. Lily acted like I didn't exist. She didn't apologize, didn't accuse, didn't say anything at all. She just floated around the house like nothing was happening, like my world wasn't falling apart because of her story. I overheard my parents talking late one night. My mom said, "Are we really going to make her leave?" My dad replied, "We have to. If we let this go, what next? We raised her better than this. She needs a wake-up call." I wanted to scream, "This isn't a wake-up call. It's a punishment for something I didn't do." Instead, I cried silently into my pillow and finished packing my life into trash bags and 2 suitcases. On the last morning, I dragged my bags to the front door. My dad stood there with his arms crossed. My mom hovered behind him, clutching a tissue. I said one last time, "I didn't do it. I don't know what else to say." My dad's face stayed hard. "Until you're ready to admit what you did and pay back what you owe, there is nothing more to talk about. Can I at least come back for Thanksgiving? Or Christmas?" I asked, hating how desperate I sounded. He shook his head. "We'll see. It depends on you." Which really meant, it depends on whether you confess to something you didn't do. Lily watched from upstairs, behind the curtain. When she saw me look up, she dropped the curtain and disappeared. I put my bags in my old car, drove a few blocks away, parked, and completely broke down. I had no apartment lined up, no spare bedroom to go to, no savings big enough to cover rent plus school. I called my best friend Jenna, sobbing so hard she could barely understand me. She said instantly, "Come here. You can stay with me and my roommate until we figure something out." I moved into their tiny 2-bedroom apartment that weekend. Jenna and her roommate gave me the living room. We put up a curtain and a cheap futon and called it a bedroom. I picked up extra shifts at the coffee shop. Sometimes I was working until midnight, then up at 6 a.m. for class. I was constantly exhausted. My grades suffered. I dropped one class completely because I just couldn't juggle everything. Then came the financial aid nightmare. Because I was under 24, the government and my college still considered me a dependent. That meant they needed my parents' financial information to calculate my aid, even though my parents had literally kicked me out. When I told the financial aid office what happened, they said, "Unfortunately, parents refusing to support you doesn't automatically make you independent. Unless there's documented abuse or other special circumstances, there's not much we can do. I called my parents and begged them to at least fill out the forms so I could stay in school. My dad texted back, "You made your choices. Handle your own mess." So I made another brutal choice. I took a leave of absence from college after that semester. It was either that or drown in debt. I went full-time at the coffee shop and took a second job cleaning offices at night. I spent almost every waking hour working or trying to sleep. I cried in the shower so Jenna wouldn't hear me. Holidays were the hardest. My parents didn't invite me to Thanksgiving, or Christmas, or any family gatherings. The first year, my mom sent one text on my birthday. "Hope you're okay. Happy birthday." I stared at it and didn't answer. Jenna's family invited me over for Thanksgiving. They bought me a small gift for Christmas. They asked about my life, my job, my plans. Sitting at their table, I realized how different real warmth feels compared to what I grew up with. Slowly, I started to rebuild. I got certified for some office skills online. After about a year of grinding, I landed an entry-level admin job at a small company. The pay was still not amazing, but it was a step up from the coffee shop. It had health insurance. It felt stable. I found a small studio apartment I could barely afford, but was proud to call mine. I bought cheap furniture off Facebook Marketplace. For the first time since being kicked out, I had a door I could close that was mine. On the outside, it looked like I was moving on. On the inside, I had this huge, unhealed wound. My sister's lie, my parents' betrayal, and the fact that nobody in my family seemed to care enough to question the story. I told myself I would never hear the full truth, that I would never get an apology, that I had to accept what happened and keep going. And then, about 3 years after I was kicked out, my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. When I answered, I heard my Aunt Lisa's voice, and everything started to unravel. Aunt Lisa is my dad's younger sister, and she's always been a little different from the rest of my family. Growing up, my dad used to roll his eyes at her and call her too sensitive or say she coddled people. I always liked her. She listened. She remembered small details. She treated me like a person, not a side character. On the phone, she said, "Sophie, it's Lisa. I know this is out of the blue, but we really need to talk." My heart started racing. I asked what was going on. She took a breath and said, "It's about what happened with your dad's credit card. The reason you got kicked out. There's something you need to know." She told me that recently, Lily had gone to her, freaking out about money. Again, she had racked up more debt, was behind on bills, and my parents were bailing her out. Again, this time Aunt Lisa pushed back. She asked, "How does this keep happening? Didn't Mom and Dad already help you with your cards a few years ago? What really happened back then?" At first, Lily deflected, cried, played the victim, but Lisa kept pressing. Eventually, Lily broke. She admitted that back when I was 19, she had been the one using my dad's emergency credit card and my debit card. She had secretly taken pictures of my parents' card when she was running errands for them and kept the info just in case. She had seen enough of my bank info around the house to use my account too. She didn't plan for it to get so out of control, but once she started, she just kept spending. Clothes, takeout, ride shares, random stuff. When the fraud alerts came, she panicked. So when my dad called home asking what was going on, she lied. She told him that I had borrowed the card, that I was too embarrassed to say anything, that I'd promised to pay it back. According to my aunt, Lily said, "I thought Dad would yell at her a little, make her pay it back, and that would be it. I didn't think he would actually kick her out." By the time she realized how serious my dad was, things had gone too far, and instead of fixing it, she just stayed quiet. For 3 years. Hearing that made me feel physically sick. So while I was sleeping on a futon in someone else's living room, working 2 jobs, dropping out of college, crying myself to sleep, my sister and my parents were having holidays together like nothing happened. Knowing, at least on some level, that something wasn't right about the story, but choosing not to dig too deep. I asked my aunt, voice shaking, "Do they know now? Mom and Dad?" She said yes. Lily had finally cracked under pressure when Aunt Lisa refused to help her again unless she told the full truth. My aunt had confronted my parents. My mom was apparently devastated. My dad was in denial at first, then quiet and shaken. My aunt said, "Your mother asked if I had your number. She wants to apologize. Your dad does too. I told her I'd talk to you first." After we hung up, I just sat there in my tiny apartment staring at my wall. For 3 years, I had accepted that my parents believed I was capable of stealing from them and lying to their faces. Now I had to process that, yes, they had been wrong, but they also hadn't cared enough to question anything until someone else forced the truth out. The next day, my mom texted me. She wrote, I know I don't deserve a reply, but I am so sorry. We were wrong. We know the truth now. Lily finally admitted everything. I can't stop thinking about what we did to you. If you're willing, can we please talk? A few hours later, my dad called. I almost didn't answer, but I needed to hear what he would say. His voice sounded smaller than I remembered. He said, "Hey." I stayed quiet. He took a breath. "Your aunt told me she talked to you. I wanted to tell you myself. I was wrong. I was completely wrong. I should have believed you. I should have at least listened. Instead, I threw you out and treated you like a criminal. I don't have an excuse." For the first time in my life, my father admitted he was wrong. He said, "I convinced myself I was being a tough parent, holding you accountable. But really, I was lazy. I believed the easier story instead of doing the harder work of actually investigating. You didn't deserve that. You never did." Hearing that didn't magically fix anything. It didn't give me back my education or the years of relationship we lost. But it did confirm one thing. I hadn't been crazy. I hadn't imagined the injustice. He ended with, "I'm not asking you to forgive me. I know I don't have the right to do that. But if you ever decide you want me in your life again, I will do whatever I can to earn it." After that, my sister texted me a long message. It was full of, "I never meant for it to go that far. And I was in such a bad place. And I've hated myself for what I did." She wrote, "We're sisters. We're supposed to be there for each other. I hope one day you can forgive me." I stared at that line for a long time. Where was that attitude when she stood by and watched me pack my bags? When she heard our dad threaten to call the police on me? When my chair was empty at the table for 3 years and she said nothing? Right now, I still haven't answered her. I did agree to meet my parents once, in a public park. My mom cried almost the whole time. My dad looked older, tired. They apologized again, said they were proud of how I'd survived, asked about my job and my apartment. They asked if we could start over, slowly. I told them honestly, I don't know. I'm not saying never, but trust doesn't grow back overnight. You didn't just make a little mistake. You chose to believe the worst about me and threw me away. That's not something I can forget because you're sorry now. They said they understood and that they'd wait as long as it took. Since then, we've exchanged a few texts. Nothing deep. No holidays together yet. I keep my distance because I'm finally at a place in my life where I feel safe, and I don't want to risk that mental stability just because they've decided they want me back. So that's where I am now. My sister lied about me. I lost everything at 19. My dad disowned me. I rebuilt my life from scratch. And years later, the truth came out, but the scars are still there. Now my family wants forgiveness and reconciliation. Part of me misses having parents. Another part of me thinks they made their choice when they believed a convenient lie instead of their own daughter. So I'm asking you, if you were in my position, would you forgive them and slowly let them back into your life? Would you keep them at arm's length forever? Or would you cut contact completely to protect yourself? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you like stories like this, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more Reddit-style family drama and betrayal stories.